Hey guys, Kenny Wisdom here. We're working out some last minute kinks in our audio and video. I apologize for that, but definitely let me know if it sounds okay. So today we have 94 masters. We're playing 7 rounds of the top 8. On your right we have former world champion David Cohen. And on your left we have Zane Nelson playing what looks like to be Rayboar and timer up there for you guys. I apologize for the little bit of a delay. We had some trouble in making everything run smoothly at the event today, but hopefully that won't be too big of an issue. Alright guys, adjusting the clock a little bit. And we are off. Alright, so we're all set. Apologies about that slight delay. See, David Cohen appears to be going first. So we have David's Blastoise versus Zane's Rayboar. I rode down to the event with David this morning, and he was talking about, he was between either Blastoise or Rayboar. We spent pretty much the whole 4-hour ride deciding which one he was gonna play. And it was an interesting discussion actually. He ended up on Blastoise because he thought that while Delphox is a very powerful card, and while you do kind of need Delphox in it, it's great to draw you out of ends and all that in the late game. He thought that Blastoise not having those to get cards, like not playing Delphox at all, giving you those extra 4 spaces, really gave you a little bit more room. I don't know exactly what he's playing. I didn't finalize his list before we left the hotel room, but as you can see, he's playing the Black Kyurem. I know he's playing some amount of catchers. So basically he's just kind of sacrificing the consistency that something like Delphox would give you in exchange for a little bit more options. You know, the baby Black Kyurem to fight against other Blastoise decks, and even the Rayquaza deck, sort of. And then some Pokemon catchers to give you a little bit of reach versus decks that run a lot of non-EXs. Just a lot of interesting things. I personally was trying to push him to play Rayboar all day. I think that Delphox is an insanely powerful card and kind of solves... If you look at both of the decks as a Rain Dance decks, that being Rayboar and Blastoise, I just think Delphox kind of solves most of the issues that you had, that you ran out of cards late. Not anymore, you have Blastoise. Not anymore, you have Delphox. You know, you get end low, you can draw up to 6 cards. I feel like the advantages that it gives you are so high. But as you can see, David ran with something else, and we see him start. We see him get a Squirtle and a Black Kyurem before ending, attach the water to his kill to go pass. So a decent start. You know, you definitely want more than 1 Squirtle, I think, but Zane has no way of knocking out the Squirtle on turn 1 anyway, so will not largely be a big deal. And Zane actually has no plays on turn 1 besides a single Fire Energy onto the Rayquaza. And David immediately rare candies into Blastoise, and this could be a quick game 1 for David. I can't quite see what's in his hand. We see an Ultra Ball and we see a Juniper, so he can likely get a Secret Sword knockout this turn on that Reshiram, and then just kind of pressure the game from there. Zane, the biggest thing about Zane passing there is he didn't even play a Tepig, so Zane is not going to have a Tepig for at least 2 more turns, and I'm just not sure if that's really going to push him through. Obviously, you know, as you see if you're a fan of our streams, we've seen some even crazier games. You see Zane a little frustrated there. We've seen, you know, crazier comebacks, we've seen crazier things happen, but in general, I think David's probably 90% to win this match, as long as he can find a second energy, which he does thanks to the Professor's Letter. So Zane has a few more draw steps before he's totally out of it, but it's not looking good for him now. And David just taking 2 waters off the letter there. I assume he's just going to attach both to the Keldeo. He doesn't really have a fear of losing anything, or at least attach the other one to the Black Kyurem. But if I were him, I think I'd probably just attach both to the Keldeo and just go aggro. You need one more. Like, if Zane bricks on his draw step, you win the game. So I don't see much of a reason not to. While he's considering his options, we'll go over some stuff today. As always, On the Bubble is brought to you by Top Cut Central. Please go to topcutcentral.com and purchase one of those beautiful playmats that you see there. Additionally, these state streams are brought to you by Pokevault.com, your premier resource for Japanese merchandise. Go ahead and go to Pokevault.com and enter the coupon code OTBPokemon for 10% off your order. So we see we see Zane reveal his hand of Emboar, Delphox, Fennekin, Fire, Professor Thunder. So he wasn't actually dead. He can play the Fennekin, but I think they're just kind of going over it, going over the game and seeing what's what. And David takes a very quick game 1. We will move on to a game 2. Some players shuffling up for game 2, and I mean, really the biggest thing that happened there was just that Zane didn't draw a single energy, or sorry, didn't draw a single supporter or real way to win the game. So nothing we can really talk too much about that match, but hopefully we'll see too much about that game, but hopefully we'll see a better match as a whole. So we definitely will get you some more information about players here soon. I don't know what everyone's on yet. Tyler Nomura is also at this event, multiple-time Worlds qualifier, multiple-time regional champion. James Good, 2013 Worlds semi-finalist, is also here. So some good. It's a small crowd here, but it's pretty stacked competition. So we'll have to see what's up. Jacob Van Wagner, who is one of my good friends who won the Oregon State Championship just back in January, is also here. So we should see a pretty fun top 8. I'm not sure what the decks are looking like, but I will get you a metagame breakdown as we move into the later rounds. Once again, 7 rounds with a top 8. Looks like the players are starting to get set up. And sorry about this, folks, slight delay in proceeding, trying to and looks like, so David's, I didn't see what David's active Pokemon was, but it looks like he'll be taking a mulligan draw or 2, and Zane revealing what he's playing, leaking information with the Fennekins, obviously, with the Fennekin sleeves. Obviously David already knows, but silly Zane. And we see supporters in Zane's hand. Let's just start. We see a Fennekin, the Fennekin and a Tepig, so he's going to go ahead and lead Fennekin, which I'm not actually sure if that's correct. I believe he led Fennekin at least. I'm not actually sure if that's correct, though. Doesn't. I don't think you want to leave. Oh no, he led Tepig, okay. And he drops a Rayquaza, Dragon's Exalted, or Legendary Treasures, I suppose, with a fire on the bench. Drops the Rayquaza EX. And just goes ahead and passes the turn. David drops a Beach. So now Zane's hand is reasonable. I can't quite see exactly what's in there. We do see David is playing the catchers, which was something he was debating for a long time, as I said. Looks like he's going to Juniper away a hand of a lot of resources. Those are both his catchers and a Blastoise, as well as a superior energy retrieval. So It's going to be pretty tough for him, but he does get the Squirtle. I do see a Superior in his hand along with the Ultra Ball, and he's going to be able to beach this turn. So if he can get the turn 2 Blastoise, we'll have a game. You know, in all honesty, like, Superior Energy Retrieval is the best card in your deck, but getting rid of them with a Juniper and Ultra Ball early is not the worst thing that can happen to you, especially if you're only getting rid of one. You know, David plays 4, as all of these decks should, so 1 is not what you want to be discarding, but sometimes you just gotta do it. And you see David discard 2 energy to an Ultra Ball. I assume he's just gonna try and find another Squirtle. His other options, he could find... Oh, he's going for the Blastoise, it looks like. So yeah, so basically what David's doing now is if he takes the Blastoise, he's saying that if you have an end Zane, go ahead and play the end, but if not, I'm getting the Blastoise next turn. If he takes a Keldeo, which looks like he is doing, he's just saying that I don't believe you play catchers, or otherwise I don't believe you can knock out my Squirtle. So I'm going to get the Keldeo as another attacker against you because I don't want to leave my Black Kyurem active against your dragons, your non-EX dragons in particular that can knock me out, which is what he's doing. He's going to rush in and then beach for 4 cards. And passing the turn to Zane, we see Zane with a Reshiram in his hand, a Switch, a Fire, a Lightning. I'm going to go ahead and slam that Lightning onto the Rayquaza. Well, actually thinking about it a little bit. Puts down the Rayquaza EX. This signifies to me that Zane is hoping that he can get a Rare Candy Emboar this turn. We do something with double N in his hand, it's going to be good versus David's 7-card hand. And players are entering. So the ideal draw for Zane here, I don't know if he plays catchers, but the ideal draw for Zane is 6 cards. So he goes Rare Candy, Emboar, Switch, Catcher, Lightning, Lightning. That's 6 cards, or sorry, Fire. That would allow him to catcher, even just 1 Fire to catcher is all you need to knock out the Squirtle. So if he can do that, I think he's probably in a pretty good shape. As we saw with the last game, Zane failing to stick a basic on his bench in the form of Tepig was a huge factor. And so if he can prevent David from having a Squirtle, it's going to be pretty good as well. It appears he cannot, because it does not appear that he has a way. He doesn't have a catcher for one. He also doesn't have a way to Rare Candy into an Emboar, it doesn't look like. But he does have an Ultra Ball. I imagine we'll be seeing that Ultra Ball discard the Reshiram and the Fire. I probably would have said 2 Fire, but I also don't know what's in Zane's hand, or what's left in his deck, actually. And I imagine he's going for another Tepig. If I saw his hand correctly, he didn't have a way to evolve or anything, so I imagine he's going for another Tepig, expecting the active one to get knocked out. And it looks like that's what he's considering. Looking through the rest of his deck. For those of you who don't know, we were going to stream in Florida today, the Florida State Championships, but there were a few technical problems on the venue's end, so we will not be doing that. We will be posting to our Facebook page at facebook.com/OTVPokemon. Everything that's going on there, probably post the top 8, maybe some standings throughout the day, so be on the lookout for that. We apologize for not being able to bring you that coverage. And he does indeed go for the second Tepig, and he's going to beach for what I believe is 4 cards, and pass it off to David. And David has double Rare Candy, Dowsing, Professor's Letter, Juniper, Superior, and Water in his hand. So I think for right now he's just kind of deciding what he wants to discard to find what he needs. So his options right now are he can go ahead and he can play the Dowsing for an Ultra Ball. So he can go Dowsing Machine, discard Water Candy for an Ultra Ball, discard 2 waters off my Professor Letter, find a Blastoise with a Rare Candy into Blastoise, and then Juniper away. I believe that'll leave him with not enough cards to with not enough cards to Superior Energy Retrieval, so I have to Juniper away his second Superior Energy Retrieval and get the Blastoise. Looks like he hasn't decided what he's doing yet. So he's taking the 2 water off the Professor's Letter. And as you can see, plenty of time left in this round. We do have the clock for you, so hopefully that's not too intrusive. We'll go ahead and tie that up a little bit in between rounds. So okay, so we do see David go for the Ultra Ball. He gets the Blastoise, and that's very important, especially if he can load up the Keldeo here. Being able to just take knockouts, even though they're non-EX knockouts, with a Keldeo, which is not being threatened by your opponent's either of their Rayquazas, it's going to be pretty strong. He needs 2 more energy to attack, and it looks like he found it in a Professor's Letter and a Lightning. So he's going to play the Squirtle. Excuse me, go ahead and play the Professor's Letter for 2 water. Was that a Professor's Letter I saw? I believe it was. I guess not actually. No, yeah, he definitely has it. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I thought my eyes were deceiving me for a moment. And taking 2 water, doing a quick look through his deck. And immediately again, Zane is on the back foot. I mean, it's definitely not as bad as it was in the last round, or the last game. And he definitely has a real shot at winning, but you know, David has the turn 2 Blastoise, has a fully loaded Keldeo, has the Black Kyurem basically whenever he wants it, and then is going to be able to take at least 1 knockout here if Zane cannot get something going, and probably take more than 1, and especially if he can knock out. If he goes big and knocks out a Rayquaza, he'll be in the driver's seat. But if he can knock out the Fennekin, let's say he catches the Fennekin, knocks it out, he's down to an even prize exchange, and Zane has no draw power, it will be a pretty good place to be for David. And David does get the 3rd energy on the Keldeo off the Professor's Letter. Now I imagine we're just going to see a Secret Sword. We could see him burn the Ultra Ball that he has in his hand, but I don't know if that's really where you want to be. He could get another Keldeo out. He could get another Black Kyurem, but so Zane there with the Professor's Letter. I'm sorry, it's Zane's turn. I apologize. I was distracted talking to an event official. And now Zane is going to be able to get the Emboar this turn. I didn't see what else was in his hand, but he's definitely in a good spot. We will definitely actually see a game. Looking around the room, I don't see any players. I see a lot of players done actually, but I don't see any big name players quite done yet. I'll definitely let you know when that happens. David looks pretty upset by the turn of events, getting N down to 5. And now Zane is absolutely in the driver's seat, especially because we know that David has gotten rid of, I believe, at least 1 superior energy retrieval. Zane is not only going to take a knockout here on the EX, but also has natural card advantage of having 8 cards in his hand, and has more resources for the long game should the game get there. And he has the Delphox now too. That's going to really shore up his resources for the long game, especially they're drawing a Professor's Letter and an Ultra Ball, making it so that he can almost naturally, naturally being without a superior energy retrieval, take a dragon knockout next turn. And I think I can't quite see what's in David's hand, but I think in this position it's difficult. So the natural thing you want to do is send up the Black Kyurem, and you want to take the knockout on the Rayquaza. But the problem with that is that with any energy in Zane's deck, he's going to be able to respond to that knockout with his Rayquaza Dragon and Exalted, and take 2 prizes and make it so that he only needs 1 more EX knockout on the board. And if you can respond to that, you're still only taking 1 prize. So Zane can definitely, if David has to go for it here, Zane can definitely put himself even more in the driver's seat. see an Ultra Ball for the Baby Black. So this is the interesting thing too about David's choice of playing the Baby Black Huron, is that it still does not lead to the best exchange for David. But here, David is going to knock out the Rayquaza EX, go down to 3 prizes. Zane goes ahead and knocks out his, knocks out the Black Huron with his Rayquaza, goes to 2 prizes. And then David can respond with a Baby Black Huron on the Baby Rayquaza and go into 2 prizes and even things up. So we do see a bunch of stuff in David's hand, but it looks like David missed the energy actually. Wow, I did not see that coming. He missed the last energy, so he merely has to shred for 120. And this could really swing the game in Zane's favor. The fact that David is not going to knock out there is huge. It means that the prize exchange that I just talked about is not exactly going to work out like he hoped. He's going to be 1 step behind the rest of the game. The other issue is that David also, just from this point forward, cannot try and fight with a Dragon type EX. It's going to be very hard for David to come back. And we see Zane's playing a Skyla. He's playing a Skyla and an Ultra Ball. I couldn't quite tell what he was doing there, but I believe that's what's happening. Yeah, we see him get the Superior off the Skyla. And I guess just fail the Ultra Ball Surge. His deck is getting pretty thin. Pretty much has anything he needs. And see, again, just to talk about the power of Delphox. In the past, David would still be a heavy underdog here, but he could always be able to end Zane down to 2 and hope that he just doesn't draw what he needs. But now Delphox, if he does end him to 2, Delphox will draw him right back up to 6 and just kind of undo David's whole turn. So there's a Superior that we knew he had. And gonna go ahead. I don't know if he has a light. Excuse me. I don't know if he has a lightning in there. Yeah, it looks like he's checking too, but he's just not. He's just with the 4 fire. David Cohen looks quite mad. David and Zane, good friends. They've both been staples of the Northwest Pokemon community for longer than I've been playing. I've been playing since 2010, and they've both been around years longer than me, so they've been friends for quite a while. And I'm not sure what David is up to. If he has a way to get another big attacker out, he can save himself, but because he can take the knockout here, go down to 3 prizes, and then Zane is forced to take a 1 prize knockout, and then David can respond with like a kill, and he just scoops. Okay, so we did see that the other Black Kyurem's were prized earlier in the game. He had a heavy ball, so that was pretty rough on David's part, but more of a game than game 1, certainly, so we will see what game 2 brings us. Sorry, game 3 brings us. 2013 Washington State champion Matt Oslakovic has won his first round. He's playing Darkrai Eviltal, and doesn't look like any big name players are done playing yet. Still have quite a bit of time left in the round. All apologies, folks. We have a little bit of trouble with the internet going a little bit slow. As far as I can tell, we'd have a little bit of trouble with that. We are on public Wi-Fi. Unfortunately, the venue does not have a way to have wired internet, so cannot do that. But I hope you can bear with us. Once again, TopGetCentral.com. Check them out. Buy a playmat. Have some fun there. Pokevault.com. A part-time sponsor for sponsoring the state streams. Go to Pokevault.com, pick up the Japanese merchandise, or Japanese deck box, whatever you want. Enter the coupon code OTB Pokemon for 10% off your order. Once again, I'm Kenny Wisdom with On the Bubble, and let me check on the game. Looks like players are still shuffling up. lot of state championships going on today. We have the Indonesian State Championship, which we streamed the Swiss of yesterday. The top 8's happening tonight. We have Florida going on currently. We have Alberta. We have Arkansas, I believe. But Arkansas is actually only 30-something players in Arkansas, but it's quite stacked. We have Britt Pybus, Sam Chen, a couple of other Worlds qualifiers coming. And we see David's go first. He has double Black Kyurem on the bench with a Squirtle active and a bunch of Ultra Balls in his hand. He has 3 Ultra Balls, I believe. Looks like he's considering playing... Wait, is that a Pressure Slider or an Ultra Ball? That's 2 Ultra Balls and 1 Level Ball. Okay, so that's actually better for him. He can get the second Squirtle. Not that Zane has a way to really knock out the Squirtle that I know of, but he might as well get the second one. Look through your deck a bit. And then if I were David, I think you probably just have to go ahead and play one of the Ultra Balls. It's bad because Ultra Balls are your main way to get Blastoises out, and you definitely don't want to be getting rid of like 2 of them early, but I think you just have to thin your deck and hope that you can get something. Additionally, if you get the Ultra Ball for a Keldeo, you can rush in and prevent one of the squirrels from being knocked out. So it'll be interesting to see what David does, because it's also the high risk, high reward play of like, oh, I top deck a Rare Candy next turn and I Ultra Ball into a Blastoise, but I don't think you can really wait that long. So we'll definitely see what he decides to do. That shuffling tells me he's probably not Ultra Balling actually, but nope, and he just passes the turn to Zane. So interesting decision. As I said, I think I would have Ultra Balled in that spot, but I'm not quite sure about it. It's definitely interesting. We see Zane playing the beach, which is going to help out David a lot. We see him Ultra Balling. I imagine he's going to... So actually, this is kind of an interesting spot here. Without knowing the rest of Zane's hand, you have a choice with this Ultra Ball. You can either get an Emboar, or you can get you can either get Tepig, or you can get a Fennekin. And in the past, in this kind of deck, you would always get the Squirtle, or you always get the Tepig, whatever your basic was, because you need to have your Rain Dance on as early as possible. But now, with Fennekin, we see that you need Fennekin to get set up early so you can draw cards. So I actually 100% of the time in this spot, maybe not 100% of the time, but a lot of times in this spot will get the Fennekin based off of the belief that if I can get the Fennekin, I can start drawing cards, and maybe it's a turn delay until I get an Emboar out and start attacking, but that waiting a turn is much better than attacking early, getting an Emboar out, and then fizzling when I can't, when I get end to 4 or 2 and don't draw anything. So we do see Zane go for the Tepig, and we see him play an N. Again, I disagree with the decision, but especially because another small thing to note there is that he's Ultra Balling and then he's ending, and he knows he's ending. So I think there you always take the Fennekin because you have fewer copies of Fennekin in your deck. So he's more likely to draw a Tepig off this end than he is a Fennekin. He only has, I assume he has 2 Fennekin and 4 Tepig, or 2 Fennekin and 3 Tepig. So I disagree with it, but obviously he's prioritizing getting the Inferno Fandango out as soon as possible. Can't fault him for that. And he does get a Rayquaza, but I don't see another Pokemon. I don't see a way to get the Fennekin out. Not too big of a deal, ultimately, but could come back to bite him. We see an attachment. We see a lightning attachment on the Rayquaza EX on the bench, and an activation of Tropical Beach. That does draw him the parts for Emboar now. He drew an Ultra Ball and a Rare Candy, so if he wants it, or if David doesn't end him away, he will get the Emboar next turn. And David with the Ultra Ball, getting the Blastoise. And so we will see turn 2 Blastoise by David and a turn 2 Emboar by Zane. So this might be the real game we were hoping for. And back to Zane's turn. Checking his discard pile. I don't think Zane plays catchers. The catchers are usually harder to fit in the Emboar list due to the fact that Fennekin, as we talked about, or sorry, Delphox, as we talked about before, when David was making his decision. And based on what we've seen, I don't think that he runs catchers. I think I would have saw them. He's gonna go ahead and Ultra Ball, get the Emboar. Taking a look through his deck, considering his other options. He does have 2 rare candies, so if he had a Fennekin on the bench, it'd be a pretty big game. But as it is, going to go take the Emboar. Playing the black-white Emboar, the correct one. I'm very appreciative of Zane. Playing the older arts. Good for him. And I'm going to go ahead and rare candy to the Emboar. Looks like he's considering the Professor's Letter. He doesn't currently have a way to get the Rayquaza out of the active position other than a Skyla for a switch card. That's honestly, so he's gonna go ahead and sorry, to finish my thought, honestly, he might not care about that too much. I don't think he's going to go too aggressively because of David's baby Black Kyurem there. So it looks like Zane's going to attach and then finish the shuffle off of the Professor's Letter, I guess. I'm not really sure what happened there. And then I assume he'll beach, but if he forgot to beach, it's going to be a big game. David attaching for his turn there, the Lightning on the Black Kyurem. And I don't know if David has a way. Oh, so there's the dowsing machine. If that buys back a rare candy, okay, it's going to buy back an Ultra Ball, getting rid of a Beach and a Heavy Ball. I didn't see a way to get Blastoise out in David's hand, but I could be wrong. And excuse me, it looks like I wish I could see David's hand a little bit better, but it looks like he's going to beach. And if Zane can capitalize, here and start taking knockouts, especially with this with the baby Rayquaza, just knocking out a Squirtle and just kind of taking a few prizes, leaving it so that if David doesn't get the Blastoise next turn, he won't find one for a while. Going to be big. Obviously, the baby Black Kyurem on David's bench is going to also play a big part in that. What can happen is we can have a situation where this Rayquaza knocks out the Squirtle, the baby Black Kyurem knocks out the Rayquaza, which leaves him at 1/1 prizes, and then Zane's forced to send up his Rayquaza and use an EX to knock out a non-EX, and then immediately get responded to with a Black Kyurem on his EX. How that would most likely play out is that Zane would then respond with his other EX on the Black Kyurem, so it might not work out exactly as David's hoping, or as David would hope in that situation. We've seen before, I believe Bidier Jing, who got second at the Oregon Regional Championships a few months ago, played 2 little Black Kyurems. Just for those situations, I think he just expected so much Mir and so much Rayquaza Emboar that he wanted to be prepared in all situations. David sends up the Squirtle, and I don't think he has a way to get the Emboar out this turn. I see an Ultra Ball, a couple of energy retrievals of various sorts, and an end. He's going to go ahead and attach. I personally don't see why. I personally definitely would have put up the
Baby Black Kyurem there, because if you hit what you need, you can get a Blastoise, because he has an N in hand. Excuse me. You can get the Blastoise and start going off, and you can initiate the prize exchange you talked about earlier. And if you don't, you can always rush into a Keldeo and Beach, which is like if David doesn't go off what he'll be doing anyways. So I don't quite see. I don't think there's really any reason not to. It's a slight edge, but might come back to haunt him. His idea could also be that he just wants to actually try and get a Blastoise and Secret Sword. But yeah, like I said, he's going to be beaching. So again, it didn't really end up mattering, but I feel like he just shouldn't have set up the Keldeo. We actually had a situation last at January regionals, at Winter regionals here. He did the same thing and it came back to haunt him. So we see both players talking about their hands after an end. As I said, these players have been friends for a long time. Pretty friendly guys. Thank you to whoever said happy birthday to me in the chat. I didn't see it because it disappeared. So my chat's being weird, but I thank you for that. This is round 1. The match is tied 1-1. Sorry they didn't update on the graphics. I don't know why it didn't do that, but I'll get that taken care of really quickly. And you see Zane gonna go ahead and evolve into a Pignite, it looks like. And no Delphox, unfortunately, but it looks like he will just go ahead and shred the Rayquaza. He can also just, shred the Keldeo. And he takes the Beach, actually, which probably is actually a better decision. I don't know why I didn't say that. And there we go, Rare Candy Blastoise. David, very excited to finally get that. As if you were not tuned into, the last 2 games. The first game, Zane did not get a. Zane's got 1 turn, I believe, to play, or 2 turns to play. Did not get a Embar out, and then second game, David also kind of struggled. So, seeing a real game here. You see him superior energy retrieval for only 2 energy. Gonna go ahead and Secret Sword. Not Secret Swording, actually. Looks like, oh, he's Junipering. Sorry, I thought he was choosing the Beach, and I thought that was a little strange. I think he actually wants to get the knockout and eliminate all of the EX counters without, or sorry, all of the Dragon counters without having to leave a Dragon active. We talk about it a lot through this matchup, but it really just comes down to the Dragons, and it really comes down to, again, it's all about the type advantage. It's what, it's like what Pokemon is all about, and just if you can make sure that you can knock out Pokemon without leaving a Pokemon up that Pokemon is unweak to, you'll be in a pretty good spot. But David does choose to rush in. I may have missed something. I'm not quite sure what happened. David rushed in and then passed. I guess, unless I missed something, I believe his logic there is just that he wants to make Zane initiate the first move with like a Dragon type. Again, making it so that Zane takes 2 prizes but has to leave a Dragon type EX active, and then David can immediately respond. I think the problem with that is that he could have allowed that to happen anyways by knocking out the Rayquaza with the Keldeo, and then the only response Zane can have is a Dragon type. So the exact same situation plays out, except for David just up 1 prize, but maybe there's some sort of thought that I'm missing, and I'm honestly not quite sure. He also didn't get to beat him, I think. I just think he had to pass. He had so many cards in hand of the Juniper. And Zane, I believe that was a Delphox Unmissable Fire to go back up to 6. A retreat, and yeah, so Zane
Zane is taking the bait, as I say, he's going in. But I don't think he really had another option. I think he's thankful that David didn't knock out the Rayquaza.
Maybe David just didn't have the energy. I guess I didn't actually see what was in his hand. That might be the key to the puzzle. And it looks like Zane is going to get the knockout, wisely attaching to that shiny Rayquaza. We still have 10 minutes in this match, plus 3 turns, so we should see a full match play out. And so now we're in the position, as we've been talking about all game, where David is now going to take a knockout with his non-EX Dragon type. Zane's going to respond with his non-EX Dragon type, and Zane's going to be down to 2 prizes, meaning that David needs to have his Keldeo to knock out, to take that knockout, which will just leave Zane to take his last 2 prizes on the Keldeo for the EX for the game. So I don't know if David plays Super Rod. I don't know if he plays another non-EX attacker, but it's likely that he does not. And we see the Professor's Letter there, fetching up 2 waters. Black Kyurem needs the 4th energy. Looks like Zane's giving David a count of what's in his discard pile. The multiple-time regional champion and world's qualifier, Tyler Namor, is still playing. Looks like he actually just lost. I saw him extend his hand, but I'm not sure. Not sure what quite happened there.
Hey, can you watch my bag for a second?
And David, not sure what David's considering. Can't see the card that he's playing around with. Just the 4th water. So he's gonna get the knockout there. And if I'm Zane, I just immediately send up the shiny Rayquaza, as he did. Take the prize, load up that Rayquaza, and kind of just tell David, if you can't knock me out with a non-EX attacker, I will win the game.
Well, gentlemen, how did you do for your first match? So, now.
Can't quite see what's in Zane's hand. I know he's a dowsing machine, and at the very least, dowsing machine can buy him a superior back, so that should.
That should basically lock up the game for him. David does play catchers, which I guess Zane would know. Yeah, Zane would know it because David had to discard them in game 2. But I think if you're Zane here, I mean, obviously if Zane can get the setup where he just sets up 2 Rayquazas fully loaded, which he actually might be able to do if he has a Lightning in his discard pile. Yeah, so you can. Looks like got word that James Good's playing Darkrai Eviltal variant. Actually, that's no. I do know. He's playing Darkrai Eviltal with Buffalon and a 2/2 Raichu line. The Raichu from the newest set does 20 times the number of your bench Pokemon. So with a DCE, and so a Raichu with a DCE when full bench can 1-hit KO a opposing Eviltal, or with 4 benched and a Muscle Band. So a little bit of mirror tech there. And yeah, Zane
is all set up. It appears Zane will win this game. He now has 2 Rayquaza EXs.
Fully loaded, so the options that David does have, if he has another non-EX attacker, he can go ahead and try and get a knockout with that, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he does. I think he only plays the 1 Black Kyurem, which is pretty standard. It's not a fault of David at all. Just how the game can play out sometimes. And gonna go ahead and shred for the knockout. 2 prizes left on Zane's side.
Players, a quick reminder, is anyone interested in registering?
It's pretty clear that David knows what's up. Looks like he's pretty frustrated. Hand on his head, looking through his hand multiple times.
So if you have registered for the video game, come see me here or somebody inside of us and we'll get you signed up.
I mean, I think
And then we'll play
you have to, if you're David here,
between the second.
for what's worth, I don't think it matters because I think you lose the game in the match. But I think if you are trying to play to your outs if there are any, you're going to go ahead and send up the Keldeo. Actually, I guess it depends on how many energy in your discard pile. If he has full energy for energy retrieval in his discard pile, for superior energy retrieval in his discard pile, it doesn't really matter, but sending the Keldeo allows you to retreat, put the energy in the discard pile, and have it for a superior later. The other option, which David can pursue, which is he might now, is he can, if he has more Blastoise parts in his deck, he can attack with the Blastoise, get the knockout, and then force Zane to commit a non-EX, or sorry, an EX, knock out his Blastoise. But even that still loses David the game, I guess. He needs to get he needs to get another Blastoise set up the next turn, and B, it still puts Zane down to 1 prize, and then David down to 2, and then it doesn't really matter. So I'm not sure what David can do. Honestly, it looks like he's pretty he's pondering his options himself. But the thing to always remember in this spot, if you plan on playing states or playing regionals or playing any tournaments really, is that there's no reason to concede in this spot. You play it out every time, in my opinion. I mean, for all you know, even if you have 0 outs, Zane could send up Emboar in accident, or Zane could announce the wrong attack, or Zane could not see the win on board, or just something. Like in games 1 and 2, you have a reason to want to concede early. You have a reason to kind of save time. Maybe not reveal things in your deck, but in general, you want to be not conceding at all in game 3. There's just no reason. Let's go, man. And David goes ahead and ends himself to 4. Still don't think he has outs in his deck. And yep, does a catcher and try and stall the Emboar. Misses the catcher, game 3. Misses the catcher. And I don't think he has outs. Again, he can stall there. David playing with Zane's Emboar, acting as if he hit the catcher. Again, very good friends. Both of these guys just playing around. It looks like David is going to go ahead and concede. Looks like they're just playing now to see what would have happened. Yeah, David's going to go ahead and concede. Playing out the rest of the game to see what could happen, it looks like. So we're going to go ahead and watch the rest of that. But Zane Nelson, as you can see on the winner slip, has beat
2011 Masters Division World Champion David Cohen.